Alright, so today I'm going to show you how to glue up a stave drum. First things first, there's a couple things you need. You need your staves, you need some hose clamps, you need glue, tape, gloves, and a bunch of paper towels. A screwdriver. And I like to use one of these things that you buy from Home Depot. It's for like, I don't know, it's called angle aluminum. So that's what I use. So first things first, you want to line up your staves. A lot of people number them. I already have these lined up. I'm using reclaimed mahogany for this drum. And what's really super important is before you get to any of this, you have to make sure that your angles are perfect. So I'm using 20 staves for this snare drum. So a 20 stave drum uses 9-degree angles. All right, so first off, you got to make sure those angles are perfect. Second off, the two sides where, sorry, that's my air compressor. The sides where the two joints will meet have to be completely smooth. So if you don't have a good blade in your table saw, or you have burn marks or something on these sides, that's going to be a problem. So what you could do if you have burn marks or you have little chips in the sides of the staves, you can take what I use is a piece of wood with sandpaper glued to it, and you just rub it out until you have a flat surface here. So if you got a good flat surface, then they'll glue up nicely, because a good glue joint, if it's done right, there's no burns in the wood and it's very smooth and clamped together for the sufficient amount of time, it's going to be stronger than the wood itself. So that being said, make sure your staves are on point. So what I'll do is I'll line these all up in this little angle aluminum. And this keeps all the staves straight. Makes it really easy to get them matched up nicely, which is going to be important later. So what this angle aluminum does is makes it really easy to line up all these staves. Push them right up against the edge. That way you know they are lined up perfectly. You do that, it saves you time later. Alright. So then what you're going to do, now that you have all these lined up, take your tape, so what you want to do is you want to leave a little extra tape hanging off the side, like this. There's a little bit extra hanging off the side, and then on the other end, you kind of want to cut it short a little bit, just before the end of the last stave. And I use like 3 or 4 strips of tape. This is an 8-inch drum, and this is extra thick tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and use 4 strips on this. one for good luck. Now, a big reason why I use the angle aluminum is because you're about to see, you have to flip these over. And it's pretty tough to flip something over without getting getting something underneath these, something long underneath the stave. So now, this angle aluminum makes it super easy to flip it over because it's already underneath it. So I just pull it to the edge of the table and flip it over. All right. Get this shit out of the way. And now you can see they're all upside down. And then I want to make sure there's no dust or anything in between the staves before you glue them up. So you just blow them out, the air compressor. That way you know it's super clean. And then what I do after this is I dry fit them. So you can just go ahead and roll them up. And you have those extra ends that you left over here. Got the extra piece. That's so you can do this. Hold it together. So now I've tried a whole bunch of all different types of shit to keep the drum together after rolling it up, after gluing it up. And the best thing I found are these hose clamps. So you need, I think it's 2 6-inch and 1 3 to 4 inch hose clamp in order to get it to be 14 inches. So they don't, I can't find giant hose clamps. So what I do is I just connect them together. You just connect them. They go right into each other. So I think it's a 4 to 6 and a 3 to 4 or some shit like that. The sizes I use, you're gonna have to play around with different sizes. That should reach around a 14-inch drum. And what's good is you can make all different size drums now. You can just by adding the clamps, adding extra clamps. Now it's important to do a dry fit because then you'll know you're going to have gaps. And you don't want gaps, especially not on a drum. It's going to be getting hit all the time. People are going to be bringing it around. So you want it to be as tight as possible. And I found that these hose clamps really are the easiest way to go. I get no gaps with the hose clamps as long as my staves are cut right. And they just apply a more even amount of pressure than like ratchet straps and shit like that. So this is just, there's other ways, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but this is the way I do it. So for this size drum, 8-inch deep, I use 3 clamps. And 3 clamps should put a sufficient amount of pressure on it. As you can see, there's no gaps in between these joints. Now, especially when we put the glue on it, these are gonna be super tight joints. So that's why we dry fit. We wanna check that and make sure that there's no gaps on any of these joints. That's important, because you get this far and you do a glue up and you got gaps, the whole thing's fucked up and you need to start over. I'll just throw the fucking shell out at that point. I don't try and fix gaps. If you got gaps, it's over. So now we got all these clamps just loose enough to get off the shell, so it'll be easy to throw them back on afterwards. So now we do the fun part. Back up. Put your gloves on. One more little spray. And now we're gonna put glue in the joints. It's kind of hard for me to get a good angle of this, but basically what I do is, I don't know if you can see that, Tight Bond 3 is what I use, and then I'll try and get an angle of this. Basically put them in, I rub the tip of the glue bottle against the cut angle. So that's how I apply the glue. So you do that at every joint. And it helps to have a new glue bottle. Otherwise you're going to be sitting trying to squeeze out old glue and it takes forever. And this is kind of like, this part is you're under a time constraint. You don't want this part to take too long because you don't want the glue to start setting. This glue sets pretty quick. I mean, you got some working time, but you don't want this shit to take too long, else you might have issues. I put a good amount of glue on. Better to have too much than too little, because the excess that you don't need is going to squeeze out at the end anyway. That's why you want a bunch of paper towels, because it's a fucking mess. And then you just roll it up like we did before. You get glue everywhere. That's okay. Make sure the tape doesn't get in between any of the joints. first one I put on after gluing, I try and get it in the middle as best as I can, and I'll tighten it up. And then after that, I'll fix whatever joints look like they're mismatched, they're misaligned. You just kind of force them out. And this actually went pretty good. And you're going to be cleaning the thing off the whole time too. That's why you want a lot of paper towels so you can check your joints and clean the glue off of them. And this looks pretty good actually. So now I'm ready to put on the other clamps. So after you got the clamps on, top, middle, and bottom, I'll usually clean up the whole area and then go around and hand tighten each hose clamp. That way you can see as you're hand tightening, you'll see the glue squeezing out from every joint. And if you got glue squeezing out from every joint, then you know you got good joints. So, clean it up a little bit. And then I'll hand tighten these. Probably can't see that very well, but I'll take these and hand tighten each one. Because you could go a little tighter by hand, it's more controlled than if you do it with the drill gun. See, I got glue squeeze out of every single one of these and every joint over here. So then again, I'll go around. And another thing that's cool about the hose clamps is now you got 3 different spots where you can tighten them from. I'm tightening from here, I'm tightening from this side, so it's more even pressure than if you use a ratchet strap, which you're really just tightening from one area, and sometimes when you tighten in that one area, it tends to push the stave in. So I don't know, I've had issues with it. Some people swear by the ratchet straps or whatever. I like the hose clamps. You get a good enough amount of pressure. And then, again, hand tighten all these. And then I'll leave this for like a few days before I take the clamps off. And then once you take the clamps off, this thing will be solid enough where you could stand on it, jump on it, whatever. So that's how you glue up a stave drum. I hope that was helpful. I'll do some more videos on rounding them and the jigs you use to round them afterwards. And I'm doing this kind of backwards. I probably should have done a video on cutting the right angles for the stave drum, but I'll do one of those too later. But there we go. That's how you glue up a stave drum. Peace.